So here are some basic economic terms that we need to know for our unit. That goods and services are things that satisfy people's needs and wants. Goods are things that can be grown or manufactured, and services are things that people do for others in exchange for money or something else of value. Yesterday we were looking at the goods and services in our packet, and some of the things that we looked at were hens, water, tree planting, cooking, plants, exploring. And in that situation, tree planting is a service, cooking is a service, but the hens, those are goods, the water is goods, plants is goods, exploring is a service. And they work together. Goods are things that can be grown or manufactured, as we said, the objects and the products itself, and services are things that people do for others in exchange for money or something, the people producing or delivering the product. So at the mall, we see both of these things. When we go to the mall, we see some goods like clothing, food, shoes, music, books, nail salon. But the services there are the employees at the stores, the hairstylist, the manicurist, and the chocolatier. Some other terms that we need to write down are, we have resources, things that are used in making goods and providing services. And yesterday we were looking at different kinds of resources when we were filling out the packet. The available resources were the hens, the freshwater spring, the edible plants, the male boars, the female boars, and the trees. And we talked about the possible uses of those resources, and then we talked about whether or not they were limited or unlimited. And another term for an unlimited resource is renewable. So let's write down the definition for a renewable resource. That's a resource that naturally replaces itself on a schedule. It could be weekly, it could be monthly, it could be annually. It might take several years, but eventually it can replace itself. We hear this term a lot when it comes to the environment, that gas and oil are not renewable. Those are limited resources on our planet, that when we try and make other kinds of fuels out of corn or out of trees, ethanol with the corn, those are renewable. So resources are things that are used in making goods and services. Like with the pencil, you have the wood, the rubber, the graphite, and the metal, and you have to combine those resources to make a product. So here's some more examples of resources. If you go to Chipotle, the goods and services and some of the resources are bowls, forks, spoons, knives, grills, containers for food, and then the services are the people who are working here. Scarcity, another one of our definitions, is that scarcity is the fact that the inability to satisfy all wants and needs at the same time. We can't have it all. And this is one of the basic economic premises, is that we can't have everything at the same time. And so we always have a situation of scarcity. And we talked yesterday about needs versus wants. And you guys nailed it with the definitions, that wants are things that you would like to have, and needs are something you have to have. So in this slide, it's kind of talking about how we want to have the name brand shirts and the name brand shoes, but we don't have to have that. So that's a want. But the need is, we do need to have shirts and shoes, but we don't have to have the name brand. So what can you buy at this store? When I go to Target, I want clothes and purses and nail polish, coffee, accessories, kids' toys, and more. But what I really need, and what was on my list, is toothpaste and shampoo and conditioner. So again, scarcity, all resources and goods are limited, so they are scarce. So choices need to be made on what one buys. Selecting an item or action from a set of possible alternatives is our definition of choice. Because things are scarce, we have to make choices. And again, the definition is selecting an item or action from a set of possible alternatives. So I have to make the choice. Do I buy 1 bottle of expensive shampoo or 2 bottles of cheap shampoo? And then opportunity cost is the value of the alternative that has been sacrificed. So in the previous example, if you buy the expensive shampoo, you've sacrificed the opportunity to buy 2 bottles of it. If you choose to buy the shoes, you may have to give up the opportunity to buy the shirt. So the opportunity cost then would be the shirt. Again, the definition is opportunity cost, the value of the alternative that has been sacrificed. And then consumption is another important term, and that's the using of goods and services. Consumer preferences and price determine what is purchased and consumed. So when we use things, when we buy them, we're consuming them, and then our preferences when we buy things determines what is purchased and consumed, and price. So we might really, really, really want that beautiful car, but it's too expensive. So even though I really want it, I'm not going to consume it or buy it because the price is too high. So that's how the price gets factored in there. So more about opportunity cost. When you think, do I buy a pair of shoes or a shirt? If you choose the shoes, then the shirt was the opportunity cost. We also have opportunity cost when it comes to time. If you have a choice between doing your homework right after school or going for a run, if you choose to go for a run, you've given up that opportunity to do homework. Now, you, of course, can do your homework later, but you've given up the opportunity to do it at that moment. Or do I study for a test or go ice skating with my friends? You know, if you choose to go ice skating, then you gave your opportunity cost was studying for the test. Do I order Domino's or Papa John's? You could pick Papa John's, and your opportunity cost was Domino's. Do I ride the bus or pay for gas in order to drive to school? If you choose to drive to school, then the opportunity cost was your opportunity to save money on riding the bus. Production is the combining of resources to make goods or services or provide services. Resources available and consumer preference determine what is produced. So again, production is the combining of resources to make goods or provide services, and resources available and consumer preference determine what is produced. Price is the amount of money exchanged for a good or service. Interaction of supply and demand determines price. Price determines who acquires goods and services. So price, when we go into a store, we look and see what the price of something is to pay for that good or service. But that it's determined by how much supply is on hand. If there's lots and lots of something, it'll generally be a lower price. But if there's a huge demand, the price is going to go higher. When something's really popular and there's a big demand, it's always more expensive. And price can also determine who acquires goods and services. If something is very expensive, not everyone can afford to buy it. So that determines who can buy it. Another example of price is, if you paid $7 for your burrito, the price was $7. If you tipped the employees 50 cents, then that was the price of the service there. And incentives are things that motivate people to act in a certain way. They can be used to change economic behavior. So incentives are things that motivate people to act in a certain way. They can be used to change economic behavior. Here's some examples here. When something's on sale, that's trying to motivate you to buy it. So they put it on sale, put the price lower, hoping that you'll buy more of it. Buy 2, get 1 free. That's a way to try and motivate you to buy something. More economic terms, supply is the amount of each kind of good or service available to consumers. So again, supply is the amount of each kind of good or service available to consumers. And then demand is the amount of a good or service that consumers are willing to buy. And we probably should add to this definition at that price. That the amount of a good or service that consumers are willing to buy at that price, because sometimes if the demand is too low, stores or manufacturers will lower the price, and then people can afford it, and that increases the demand. And we'll look at some charts of that at a different time. So the law of supply and demand, you guys pretty much know this intuitively, but we need to put it in economic terms. That the law of supply and demand is the higher the demand and the lower the supply, the higher the price will be. And the lower the demand, nobody wants it, and but there's a lot of supply, then the stores are trying to get rid of it. Nobody's buying it, so they have to lower the price.